That fist was right in my face and went BAM! And it was like white for a second. And then I looked at her and then another fist. BAM! Right in my face.
She socked you?
She socked me right in my face, right outside of Texas. And then I looked at her, I was like, what? Stop hitting me. And then she went, ba, 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 ba. And I had to grab her hand finally. I'm holding both her wrists.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Genius Brain Podcast. We have one of our favorite guests, Ed Park VP, here today.
What's up? Cheers.
Cheers. You guys want to hear something fucking funny? So in this office space that I rent out, the door that I have actually automatically locks. I have locked myself out of this office maybe about 3 times now.
Twice with me. No.
Twice with Ed now. So we fucking locked ourselves out of this office. And this happens every time, like I'm in mid-conversation. I'm not really thinking. We both locked both of our car keys inside. So even if we wanted to leave, we couldn't. And so I've done this multiple times. And the last time I did this, I actually had to leave my car here in the office area for fucking 3 days and hope my car didn't get stolen.
Yeah.
Which it didn't. And then for some reason today, I was like, why don't I just call a fucking locksmith?
Yeah.
The 3 times I never thought about calling a locksmith.
Today, yeah, locksmith came and saved the day.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, we were waiting out for like 40 minutes listening to
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse
Dude,
chats.
I gotta let you go. Okay, we gotta talk about this.
Okay.
So if you guys don't know what Clubhouse is like this hot new, I wouldn't know if you even call it social media thing, right? So the way Clubhouse was sold to me was that it's a great way for people to network, to either gain knowledge, get jobs, or whatever, meet people who are important.
Right.
So I went on Clubhouse once, and the one experience that I had, it was great. It was just a conversation with my buddy Frisia, this other guy named Sam, I believe, Danny Chung, and my buddy Khalif, and we were just chopping it up, having great conversation. It was like honestly having a podcast with like 5 people.
Yeah.
And Clubhouse, you are invited through invites only, so they kind of make it exclusive. I think that's like a really good marketing tool for it.
Right.
So I happened to hop onto a Clubhouse chat room with a couple of people. Like this, first of all, it's just, if you guys know who King Los is like one of my favorite rappers. On Clubhouse, the topic was about how just because something is written long ago, it doesn't mean that the information is true. The reason why that came up is because King Los was talking about what he reads. He only reads stuff that are hieroglyphs.
Because we tuned in, he goes, I don't read. And people are like, wait, what do you mean you don't read? He's like, I don't read words.
He says, I don't read anything that's man-made. And then as he goes, I don't fuck with anything that's man-made. As he's on an app, on a phone that's made.
Broadcasting your voice to millions
of people on something that's man-made.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, is this guy a troll? Because I know he does trolly shit, but he was actually serious in this conversation. And so to that, somebody said that he goes, well, you can't say that just because you read something from long ago, that's considered empirical evidence just because it's dated, right? Something from the past doesn't mean that it shows truth in the future.
Right.
There is no direct correlation. She was completely right, which is just common sense, right? And he's arguing against it, by the way. And she goes, this is what she said. She goes, empirical evidence requires information to be concrete. And to that, somebody said, I shit you fucking not, in anger, hieroglyphs are literally written in stone, so it's concrete.
I mean, it's like technically right.
Yeah. And then somebody else says right after that, facts. Yo, celebrities are some of the dumbest fucking people on earth, dude. This is what I'm talking about. Just because you have a platform doesn't mean you should speak.
These are all lessons that we can learn in critical thinking and deconstruction of confirmation bias. Is just
this is what and people argue about this stuff too. They go, well, you think just because he's a rapper he's not smart? No, I don't think he's smart because he said stupid shit. The man literally said that because he reads things that predates something that's written on paper, that what he read back in the day is more truthful than stuff that is written on more current type of stationery.
Yeah.
That is the requirement for something that's truthful.
Nothing past papyrus.
Nothing past papyrus. Hey, if that shit was written past papyrus, dude, you know what the funniest shit was? The part that made me die laughing. There's one person that's very reasonable in there because when he was talking about he doesn't read anything that's man-made and he only reads hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
Somebody said, but somebody had to write those hieroglyphs.
Somebody wrote that.
Somebody wrote those hieroglyphs.
Those were man-made.
And everybody ignored the most reasonable person in the room. Doc, I was like, is he fucking trolling everybody in this room?
It's just like, okay, I guess that's, well, what's the Clubhouse?
Clubhouse.
Yeah, I guess that's what Clubhouse is then.
You guys you guys ever go on Clubhouse, this is the one thing I want to warn you guys about. Clubhouse, just because these people write stuff that they do, it doesn't mean that they're an expert in that topic or subject. Let me give you a great example, right? Before you go onto Clubhouse and you get that invite, right? They ask you what your interests are. It's much like Pinterest.
Right.
So based on your interest, they'll suggest certain groups, right? So obviously my stuff is finance, business, and whatever, right? That's stuff that I'm somewhat interested to, hip hop music, whatever.
Right.
So one that popped up was how to grow a successful business and make millions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, cool. So who are these people? I go in there. It's these people who own like 1 or 2 nail shops,
right.
a liquor store here and there. None of them are millionaires. And listen, I'm not shitting on the small business. I come from a small business. I have small businesses. But in order for you to give advice to people about how to make 7 figures, you have to make 7 figures. What the fuck are you guys talking about? It's the adult version of dumb teen talk, right? It's like these people are just fucking bullshitting each other the whole time. And there was a subject about how to use social media for your business and stuff. And I'm in social media and I use it for my businesses. And I actually have proof that this stuff works. I know. All their information was wrong. It was completely wrong. And I went to go look at some of these people's names and their businesses and their influencer page. It's some of the worst stuff I've ever seen. The worst interactions, the worst conversion, everything that you could see that's something that you shouldn't do for a business. They had it and they were giving a seminar about how to use social media to make money and grow a 7-figure business when they didn't have any of it.
Man, so Clubhouse is, it's new, but it's just unregulated conference tables and like where anyone could say.
It's live Twitter.
Live Twitter?
It's live Twitter. It's a bunch of people who think that, and by the way, there are actually really great ones. Right. You just have to find them.
Right.
But when you go into Clubhouse and people tell you it's great for networking, be careful about the information that you're receiving. You can't think that everybody in there is a fucking Gary Vee. They're not. It's people who want to sound smart or they're complaining and griping about some type of social injustice, right?
Right.
Which, hey, that's fine too. But at a certain point, it just sounds like a bunch of fucking whining to me, you know? Yeah. Oh my God. This is like the great intro that I gave him to Clubhouse. I was like, yeah, it could be great.
It could, but, I'll just kind of lurk around for now.
If you guys want to, I will say this though. There are some fucking fun. There was a Clubhouse that I looked into that Khalif showed me, and we were dying laughing. It was called like XXX booty clapping or something. Okay. And literally, it's just somebody clapping ass. Literally just. And somebody else hops in and they're talking dirty. It's like these strippers that opened up this.
Okay.
And there was like 1,000 people in that room, and they was just clapping ass.
Dude, we could open up a room and just do that.
That's what I'm saying. Call it XXX clapping ass.
It's like, ooh, we're gonna rub some baby oil on this.
So fucking funny, dude. Clubhouse is so ridiculous. But anyways, as per usual, you guys have been asking for a lot of these like film reviews. And when we could do film reviews, we can obviously get into a lot of American films that have been coming out. But I want to share with you guys a lot of Korean films that I grew up with.
The classics.
Yeah, and I'm not like beating on this I'm not beating the same drum and try to show you guys like what these like Asian people can make great films. Them's is just facts. But I want to share with you guys some stuff that you haven't seen.
Yes.
Maybe you guys have seen this. There was once again an American remake of this film. And I have talked about how I don't like a lot of rom-coms, but there are a few that have stuck with me for quite a long time. And my favorite rom-com of all time is actually a Korean one, and it's called My Sassy Girl.
Right.
엽기적이 그녀. Right? This rom-com, it's, as a Korean American, it's so creepy how similar it is to my life. It made me It made me feel like there was a camera watching me my whole life, and then they made a film of
Is this the Truman Show?
Yeah, it felt like it, right?
Dude, I mean, I saw it a long time ago. I'm gonna probably say 10 plus years ago, and so I was pretty much a shithead kid.
Yeah,
and I wasn't into rom-coms at all. But I just watched it again because you told me, Ed, we're gonna watch My Sassy Girl. So I actually felt like, whew, here we go. Like, all right, I'm gonna watch this rom-com, and you know what? It was fucking hilarious, dude. It's great. It's a great film, dude.
It's one of those rom-coms that had moments that I actually cried laughing, because of how
it has those moments.
It has these moments that are so fucking ridiculous. It just made me crack the fuck up. Like I forgot the actress's name.
I mean, I didn't look.
She was famous though. Like she was like the hottest Korean actress at the time.
Right.
When she was doing this film.
Let's see, Jun Ji Hyun.
Yeah, Jun Ji Hyun.
You're right. I had the Wikipedia open. Right, I had that ready.
So many Korean women are like her.
Okay, so you were talking about the remake, right? And the main complaint was that it doesn't have the soul or whatever. And I was watching the trailer for the American remake, and this girl just sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Just says these things. It's the same lines as the Korean film, but her character sounds off her rocker, right? But when we watch this film, it's like, I've dated a girl like this.
Yeah.
Right? I know this girl.
This is the typical fucking angry ass Korean girl that just tries to sock her boyfriend no matter what. Whether you're angry, you're happy, you're sad, Korean girls just like to fucking hit you. I have no idea why.
And then the other thing about this movie is they really fucking hit each other in this movie. They really get hit, which is great, actually.
Yeah.
It turns out like it's violent in a way, but every time someone gets hit, it's hilarious.
It's just that's just how Korean girls are, dude. They like to hit. Like when they're happy with you, they sock you. When they think you're cute, they sock you. When they like you, they sock you even more. What the fuck is that about, dude?
Oh man. So once again, we're gonna do I'll read the synopsis and the plot. And David, I know you love this movie and seen this probably way more than I have. You probably want to take the reins more on this.
We'll just read it down and then we'll break it down.
So let's see. The film tells the love story of a male engineering college student, Hyunwoo. Did I say that? Hyunwoo?
Hyunwoo, yeah.
Hyunwoo. And quote unquote, the girl. Her name is never mentioned in the movie. Hyunwoo just cannot seem to catch a romantic break. Their personality stands opposite to the characteristics traditionally associated with masculinity and femininity in Asian societies in general. So it actually starts with 3 parts, and it says first half, right? But one day at a dinner and drinks with his college friends, Hyunwoo is interrupted by a call from his mother, telling him to visit his aunt and meet a potential date. At the train station on his way to his aunt's, he observes a drunk girl standing precariously close to the edge of the train platform as the train approaches. He pulls her to safety just in time. So, we get an idea of who Hyunwoo is, right? He speaks about how he was raised and the type of guy he is. He's like an admitted dope. He's kind of dumb.
Yeah,
right?
He's kind of really stupid. And it's so funny too, because in that train scene too, she's literally teetering at the edge of the subway, and he kind of looks at her and he runs to saves her, and she's just wobbling back and forth, stares at him. She goes, "자기야," which means sweetie. And she fucking, this is after she throws up, right?
Right. So, he tries to first he helps her from like falling off the edge, and then they get in the train, and then she calls out the dude who's sitting on the seat.
That's right.
Right. So if you guys know, if you want to explain Korean culture.
So in Korean culture or any kind of like Eastern culture, we have a reverence for our elders, right? Japan, Korea, it's all the same. When you're on a kicha, like a train, like a subway station, right? If there's an elder person, you let them sit first and you stand. Even in Japan, there's signs that say if an elder person is there, you have to let them sit first and you need to stand. It's actually a rule in the train. And so there's this younger person that's like, he's like chewing gum, listening to music or some shit, right? And there's an older man and he's like coughing. He wants to take the seat. And he kind of ignores the older dude. But this girl, being the gangster that she is, she just starts fucking cursing this dude out, telling him to get the fuck up and let this old man sit down.
The way she said it too is very gangpe-like.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 아니라나?
Right.
We say, hey, you're not going to get up?
Fucking slaps him in the back, and it's a real slap. That's what I'm telling you guys. Everybody gets slapped for real in this movie. Talk about slapstick, it's for real.
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by Skillshare, my friends. What are you doing with your time 2021? You can spend it creating something meaningful with Skillshare's online classes because time is what we make of it. So what are you doing, my friends? With Skillshare, you can find inspiration in the moment and learn how to express your creativity. Right now, I'm actually taking a course called Productivity for Creatives because your boy is all over the place. And sometimes when you're a creative, like, productivity is the last thing that you think about. You're only thinking about creating. Well, the problem with that is that if you're not really focusing and kind of planning out what you're going to do, you kind of just end up going in a circle. So this class has been helping me out a lot, especially when it comes to this podcast. Skillshare has a bunch of classes and courses that you get to take on your own time. It's incredibly affordable, especially when compared to pricey in-person classes and workshops. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month. Yes, my friends, it's that cheap. Explore your creativity at Skillshare.com/brain and get a free trial of premium membership. That's Skillshare.com/brain. Once again, in order to get that trial of premium membership, go to Skillshare.com/brain.
She smacks him upside his head with the force of 1,000 suns. Like, bah.
But you'll notice like the cum comes out of his mouth, puts it back in, and he's like, "Aish," and he gets up and leaves, right? And then so the old man sits, but then she gets drunk and barfs on the old man's head. It's so graphic. Oh my gosh.
But just to give like a little insight into her personality, after she already checks his full force and smacks him upside his head, she looks at him and she goes, "야, 분홍색 입지 마." Which means like, hey, pink doesn't look good on you because he's wearing a pink polo shirt.
Yeah.
So she has to roast this fool about his shirt, and then he has to take that shit and walk away.
So, Kyunwoo, let's see. Inside the train, Kyunwoo cannot help but stare at the girl who is his type, but repulsed by her drunkenness. Finally, she throws up on a passenger and faints, but not before she calls Kyunwoo 자기야, which means like honey.
Honey.
Right? The passenger aggressively chides Kyunwoo and tells him to take care of his girlfriend. So, the obvious part is just like drunkenness is very normal in Korea.
Yeah.
Public drunkenness is a normal part of Korean life, right?
Like you see it all the time.
Yeah.
Specifically after hours too. So in Japan and Korea, like everybody's kind of in the corporate business world. They're so used to being very strict and very stringent rules and kind of like keeping up the Joneses, right? But when it's time to drink after work, which is in Korean is called haesik, is where you drink with the company, people get smashed and shit faced.
Dude, when me and Dan were there, and even when I was in Japan the year after, every night, anytime after midnight or something, some ajishi, some salaryman passed out on the street, passed out on the bushes, passed out on the park bench, passed out on a bus. It's just part of the life. You take care, you just leave them alone. And then you just don't mind them.
Yeah. Like, you guys will see that sometimes if you're listening to this on the East Coast, like in New York, you see these dudes that wake up the next morning, they're going into their fucking suit and tie job, but you could tell that they got smashed the night before and they're still wearing the same suit that they wore the night before. So just that times 10. It's like a bunch of that shit. You'll see it in Japan when you go in Tokyo. You'll see it all the time.
Right.
Yeah. Did they in the beginning of the film, they kind of went through his life as a kid, right?
Right.
So they thought he was a girl.
Right. They wanted him to. They wanted a girl, so they dressed him as a girl. So he thought he was a girl,
and he didn't understand why he had a penis though. So you want to know something fucking funny?
Right.
When I was watching this film, I was mortified when that first came out.
Yeah.
You know why? So when I was a kid, this is a true fucking story, and I have pictures of this. Not too long ago, I went back to Sacramento, and we were going through our old photo albums, right? I said, this is not too long ago. This is way back in the day.
Yeah.
But we revisited this just to show Mariel. So years ago, and this is before I saw the film, I was going through our old photo albums. And I noticed that my brother, when he was a kid too at the same time, he wore very different clothes than I did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why the fuck is everything that I'm wearing pink with like flowers and bunnies? And why is it all pale yellow? And so my mom starts laughing and she goes, oh, that's because we only dressed you in girl clothes till you were like 2. I was like, excuse me? What did you just say? My parents dressed me up as a girl because back in the day, or people still do it now, when they would look at the shape of your belly, that's how they would assume what gender you were.
What?
So because it was either oblong shaped or really wide, they were saying that I was going to be a girl. And for them, it was facts. It was empirical evidence.
Written in stone?
Written in stone.
In hieroglyphics.
So everybody assumed that I was going to be a girl. So I had clothes for kids ages 1 through 2 that were all girl clothes, and we were too poor to buy new clothes. So I was dressed as a fucking girl for the first 2 years of my life.
Damn.
So when I saw that in that film, I was mortified.
But it kind of speaks to his character, right? Because he kind of has an overcompensation kind of thing as a man. But he can't. He can't overpower this girl. Like her masculinity is peak.
Way above his.
Yeah. Kyonu, completely flustered, leaves her on a subway platform bench, but his conscience compels him to take her to the nearest hotel for safety. While the girl is passed out on the bed, her phone rings and Kyonu picks up. He gives vague answers in regard to the girl's whereabouts, and perhaps through GPS tracking, police raid the room and Kyonu gets maced and sent to jail. Talk about a motherfucker who has no foresight.
Yeah.
So it kind of talked about how he's not a
dunce.
Bright kid. Yeah. This motherfucker like can't see ahead the problem of him walking around naked.
With his drunk, half drunk girl in this bed.
And in between that too, there's all these small nuances, like the way he deals with the hotel owner. Because he had like sextuplets and like all these little nuances. So the other thing I noticed about this movie, like if it had to be remade, it should have been remade by Edgar Wright, the guy who made Hot Fuzz.
Oh yeah.
Baby Driver, right? World's End, Shaun of the Dead. Because I think you mentioned it, the guy who does Every Frame of Painting did a whole essay on Edgar Wright. And I was watching this movie, I was like, this is a Korean Edgar Wright movie. That's what it is. All those, like, everything has a joke to it.
Yeah.
Every setup, everything that's going to it, every little moment, there's no time wasted. Yeah. That's why this is such a great, like, comedic film, by the way. This is what I really appreciate about it. So this motherfucker anyway gets caught in a situation where it looks like he's gonna Bill Cosby this girl.
And it's so, this part cracked me up is because it just goes to show how stupid he is. Yeah. Because even in this dire situation, he already kind of put himself in this like fuck situation, right? There's no way that he looks good in this. So cops in Korea don't have guns. From what I was told is like the people who do have guns are higher up, detectives. Right. Detectives have guns or something like that. But your regular just beaten cop doesn't. They have like whatever sticks and they have mace. And so this female cop comes in and sees him butt naked, right? She's telling him to raise his hands, to put his hands up, but he sees it's a woman cop, but his dick's out, so he covers his head. She's like, no, 손들어! Like, put up your hands. He goes, puts his hands back up, puts it over his crotch, so he gets fucking maced in the eyes.
No more to go.
Yeah.
All right, fucked up situation. So, he spends a night in jail. And he gets caught up with these gangpes in there, which pretty much kind of, once again, I think it's setting up, showing his quote unquote masculinity in their society, where he kind of stands, let's say, quote unquote, again, beta.
Yeah.
The beta type.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He is sent home from jail the next morning, and to his surprise, he gets a phone call from the girl who demands they meet by the train station so he can figure out what happened the night before. So they go to Baskin Robbins, and he explains to her what exactly happened that night before. And as it plays out, and then the camera circles around, and then it zooms out, the story of what just happened to them, there was a kid's birthday party, and then it's empty. Everybody leaves. Once again, these visual comedy cues, these little small little like nuances to it. It's just so
That shit
real
was so funny.
and rich in Korean culture.
Mhm.
Just nuanced Korean like humor.
And also kind of in that moment too, it just shows how clueless he is too.
Right.
Right? Because he doesn't even know how much time has passed, and he looks like, oh.
Or like his spatial awareness.
Yes.
He's telling this really weird story around little kids.
Little kids.
At a Baskin Robbins. So they just she tells him, that they're gonna go get drinks, right? So over soju, the girl cries, admits to breaking up with her boyfriend the day before, and gets thoroughly drunk, resulting in a second trip to the same hotel. Thus begins his comically ill-fated relationship with the girl. So in that restaurant, she calls out these creeps.
Oh, yeah.
At the restaurant. Okay, so this is a pattern of behavior because even in the subway, we said before, she has a righteous anger.
Yeah.
That's fucking Han.
Yeah.
We have a reason to be angry.
Yeah. There's a lot of virtue in it.
Yeah. Like, because of the uncontrollable anger, like, if something is wrong, that someone with that Han is gonna just do what they can to say something about it right there. And that's her, like, balls out, calls out these fucking creeps with these younger girls.
Like these junior high students, right?
Yeah.
And she kind of walks up to them and immediately just goes up and says, "Where's your ID?"
Yeah.
She tries to age check these kids. And then the older men, obviously they know they're doing something fucking creepy. They're picking up on these young girls who, by the way, these girls know what they're doing too. They almost come off as like little prostitutes.
Yes.
Right? And so he's like, no. Like, oh, you got it completely wrong. These are just my little tongsangs, right? Like, which is like my little siblings.
Yeah.
Right? Which it clearly isn't. They're in it because they're going to get free drinks and beer, and they can just entertain these old fucks.
Yeah. So, while she's doing that, it also disturbs the other, people in there, right? While she might be doing, like, throughout this whole film, she's so public. She's so, doesn't matter. She doesn't give a fuck. Like, she's gonna do what she's gonna do. Right? Okay. So, she comes back super upset about, what had just happened with these men and these girls. And she makes him pour a drink, and then one shot, like on cue, on film, this is a one take thing. She takes 3 shots, right? And then she starts confessing about her past relationship, and then boom, passes out.
Fucking smashes her head into the table, dude. And this part's
This
so
guy.
he's fucking freaking out. He's like,
Yeah. Just poking her head.
poking it. He's having a fucking anxiety breakdown, dude. Like, please, just wake the fuck up. The way he pokes at her too, you just see this desperation.
Oh my god.
Like, please just wake up.
Oh man. Let's see. Where are we now? She's drowning her sorrows in alcohol, obviously, and he takes her back to the hotel. He gets a little poetic in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
I saw her face, her neck, and her breasts.
He's like appreciating the beauty.
Yeah, just as a quote unquote beta, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets very determined. Like, he knows this girl must be really sad.
Yeah.
That's why she's getting drunk. She's really hurt, and he's now determined to fix her sorrows.
Yeah.
Right. So, after the second overstay night at the hotel, she begins to become a more active part of his life. She visits Kyunwoo in college and pulls him out of class, telling the teacher that Kyunwoo is the father to her soon-to-be aborted baby. Yo!
Talk.
This scene was, I was like, is this the best abortion joke I've ever seen on film?
So they have to go to the clinic.
Dark is that?
And like right before he's vehemently denying this, and clearly nobody believes it. And the professor looks at him right before he leaves. And he goes, "If you can keep it, just keep it."
Yeah. You gotta raise her as your own if you can.
Yeah, I'm like, yo.
But when she said it, he was like, he's like, how'd you convince him to get me out of class? Oh, I said we're gonna go get an abortion. Let's go.
Yeah.
This girl's crazy.
Dude.
She's crazier than the girl in Fight Club.
Dude, you know what's so fucking funny too? Like, I remember when I saw that too, like later on. This happened to me after, but I broke up with somebody. This actually happened twice, but this one was very similar to this one. I broke up with somebody, right? And this was like in my car, in my own podcast, for shame. And we were parked in a car, and I was gonna call it quits with this girl. She was, and I shit you not when I say crazy, I don't use this term loosely, unless it's a joke towards a woman. This girl was fucking nuts. Like, she had some mental issues, right?
Right.
Great sex. Crazy woman. But
that's why you stay though,
yeah,
right?
So, you know, when I was calling it quits, you know, we were doing it face. This is in Sacramento. She starts fucking bawling uncontrollably in the car. Like, it looked like I struck her, dude. And so I'm freaking out, right? I'm like, yo, calm down. And she was like, no. And she just starts crying, bawling. And this is just to show, by the way, dating 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Unwarranted. That should not be a reaction for some guy you know for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Starts crying uncontrollably, right? And this person walks by the car, and you know what she says? She goes, do right by her. I'm like, I didn't do anything.
Do I know you?
Yeah, she just goes, do right by her. And she just walks off in the most sassiest way possible. I'm like, yo, dude, I didn't do anything.
Dude. Oh man. So here's a crazy story. Because you and I have dated Korean girls. Like I said, this crazy is kind of we understand it. We know it, right? I'm not gonna say it's normal, but we know it. It's familiar. Yeah, I was in a position where like I was fighting with this girl outside of Tiggs.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, Tiggs.
And we were just having an argument and about some bullshit, and I'm just like, why are you being like this? And then she starts crying, you know, and she falls to the floor. She goes, I had an abortion! Screamed out loud in the middle of, if you know where Tiggs is, it's Pioneer Square, right? Pioneer Square is like, yeah, there's a lot of fuck. Hey, let's get up, let's go, right? I'm going to finish this story as we move along with this movie, okay? I'm going to leave that right there, and I'm going to get on with this story, because we're going to talk about the familiarity of how crazy Korean girls are, okay?
Oh my God. I just my ass is sweating from that, dude. Like, literally my ass is sweating from that shit, dude.
Oh, man. So, well, back to the movie. Let's see. Where was I? The girl's mood swings wildly from joyful to downright violent. But Kyung-woo puts up with it and lets her abuse him for her amusement. So she also turns out to be an aspiring scriptwriter. And throughout the movie, she gives Kyung-woo 3 different screenplays and different genres. The first is an action movie, The Demolition Terminator.
Oh my God.
Which switches gender roles, symbolically having the girl save her helpless lover, which is Kyung-woo. And second is a wild perversion of a Korean short story, Sonagi. How do you pronounce it?
Sonagi is a sudden rain shower.
Sudden rain shower.
Flash flood.
Right.
Yeah.
In which the girl, having died, asks that her lover be buried along with her, even though he's still alive.
Yo.
So these two, like, when they kind of do a, like, I don't know what you call it, like community, like he reads the script, but then it comes to life and they have this big action scene. Now, mind you, this is 2001 in Korea. I think Shitty came out like 2 years before.
Yeah.
And it was like the biggest box office hit in Korea at the time, right? In
yeah.
99. Because Korea didn't have an action movie like that before, right? And they kind of rode on that with this movie, with this girl wanting to be a screenwriter. And she's expressing this story super cheesy and corny, but then they have this shootout together where she like saves him, which is like, it's super cute.
Yeah.
It's nice. And then she tells a story of Sonagi.
Sonagi is one of the most, surprisingly, this is probably, there's so many great moments in this film. This play out of this screenplay was one of my favorite parts of this film because it depicts, first of all, how fucking nuts she is. So it's like set in olden times, right? Yeah. And obviously this predates like modern medicine or whatever, right? And you know, they kind of make these promises to each other, like, you're gonna be with me till the day I die. All right. Yeah. You know, and it's like stuff that you say when you're extremely in love with somebody, right? But nobody takes these words for it to be like literal, right? Yeah. And so she dies, right? What was it from? Was it from like, it was from something. Nobody knows, sickness, right?
Yeah.
But then her last dying wish is that she's buried with her lover.
And then it cuts to, they're like, you know, traditional Korean funerals, just crying. People are crying in the background, right? And then people are putting dirt in. And they're dragging Konu into the fucking hole
to bury him alive.
And then he tries to drag out, and they fucking hit him in the face with the shovel. Twice. Dude, visual comedy, the pacing, the style, the timing. Oh my goodness.
When you guys watch this film, you're gonna rewatch my sketches and understand where I get where my comedy from.
Right.
It's as Korean gets. It's literally from movies like this.
Right.
So do it the part. So after she's like done reading this whole story, right? They're playing the whole thing out. It goes back to them in the cafe. And you look at Kyonu's face; he's mortified, and her face is like in this dream state because she thinks that she just told the story about what true love is. Like, yo, what the fuck is going on?
So, he's just like, what the fuck? But after telling the story of her screenplay, what she's realizing through it, though, like, this is why it's just great storytelling. They use this hilarious scene to set up the fact that she's not over her ex, right? And because of that, it makes her a bit sadistic. So she pushes Kyonu over the dock, and he can't swim.
Yeah,
and she watches him drown.
He's literally drowning to death.
It's like, oh, that's how deep it is. It's so sadistic.
And then she dives in and saves him.
And then she goes in and saves him. He gets tired of her bullshit and enacts revenge by ditching her and forcing her to take care of him when he's drunk. But he ends up in jail again. She picks him up from jail instead and beats the shit out of him. So going back to the story I was just telling. We were in a fight outside of Tig's, and she starts crying, saying that she had an abortion in Seoul. And it was like really loud. She screams in front of everyone. So I hold her by the arms. I'm like, hey, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, what are you talking about? My baby? What?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then she takes her hand, and I just see a fucking fist come right at me. It was like slow-mo. You know, like, I play baseball, right?
Yeah.
So when you see a ball that's going to hit you, it's almost in slow-mo. You actually see the ball before you get hit.
Yeah.
That fist was right in my face and went bam! And it was like white for a second. And then I looked at her, and then another fist. Bam! Right in my face.
She socked you?
She socked me right in my face, right outside of Tig's. And then I looked at her, I was like, what? Stop hitting me! And then she went, ba, 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 ba. And I had to grab her hand finally.
Uh-huh.
I'm holding both her wrists. Stop hitting me!
Yeah.
And then you know what she says? Ew, stop yelling at me. My sassy girl, bro. You think like this shit is crazy? I get it. I fucking get it. She went, ew. Stop yelling at me. And she left to her car. And then
How
I can
does she
continue
just
the rest.
Unload on you and goes,
Yo.
Why are you yelling at me?
Yeah. It was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, my face is like, my head is spinning. My world is like, I just woke up. Like, where am I? Oh, I'm at Tig's.
Dude, I gotta I literally, you guys will see this in a film that I'm kind of writing right now, and it's literally about the relationship that Mariel and I have had. Mariel is not like that, but she has glimpses of these things, right? So I don't think I've ever told the story before because I want to leave it in the script, but I'll just tell it now. You'll see it in the film either way.
Yeah.
But Mariel and I, when we first started going out, we had a lot of these like very crazy fights and arguments, right? And Mariel back in the day, she's not like this anymore, but she didn't like it when somebody that she cared about disagreed with her, right? Because it made it, if to her, it sounded like we were belittling her if we just didn't agree with the stuff that she liked, right? And this is like our first year or two that we've been together, right? And, you know, me growing up in a household where we tend to yell a lot, I got super frustrated with her. So can't remember exactly what it is right now. I have it written down somewhere because that's how funny this situation is to me later on. But literally I said, hey, let's just agree to disagree and let's just have a good dinner, right? And it ended up her just yelling at me. She was like, nope, you need to tell me that I'm a good person, right? And I'm like, what are you doing? Right? She goes, say I'm a good person right now. And I'm like, no, like, don't talk to me like that. Don't make demands to me. I was like, we don't have to agree about everything. Let's just agree to disagree. It's not a big deal, right? Let's just move on. She goes, say I'm a good person. She's yelling at me at this point. And I looked at her and I was like, hey, look, I'm actually getting angry right now. So I need you to calm down. Let's relax and we'll just have a good meal. We'll talk about this later. Okay. She goes, say I'm a good person. Say I'm a good person. She's just saying it over and over and over. Right. And I turned to her. I go, shut the fuck up. Because she's been screaming at me. Right. And then she stopped. She goes, why are you yelling?
Stop. Yeah. Okay. So stop. You tell, we've been there. We know it.
Let me tell you, I got so mad. I grabbed the collar of my shirt and I tore my shirt in half because I didn't know what to do. What? Ed, you know, it's like you're like speechless.
I bet if you had a bowl of dirt next to you, would have poured it on your head like
I just wanted to beat myself up. Like, is this reality? You were yelling at me for like 5 minutes straight. And I yell back at you and you go, oh my God, this guy's crazy. Oh my God. That was like one of the fucking funniest moments that we've had.
Oh man. And you know what? And we love these people.
Yeah. And I fucking love this woman to death.
And welcome to Korean Rom-Com.
Yep.
All right. Man. Oh, it's so crazy. Let's see where we leave off. He ditches her to hang out with his friends and drink, and she calls him. And there's that scene when he did the English. The fucking voicemail.
The number you have dialed is not in a service. Please hang up and call again.
And at the jail, she calls her, your English is pretty good, huh?
Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's what
So he was like out drinking with his friends and he sees this hot girl walk by, right? And he's like, fuck this last girl. I'm over her. I'm gonna holler at the next fine chick I see. And this fine ass girl walks by and he's like, oh, I got shit. You know, we're just like, hey baby. Yeah. Right? Turns around, it's her.
It's her.
He freaks out, starts running away. And she's like, and she looks for him and he ditches her. And that's when he does the phone call.
He does the voicemail.
He does the fucking voice tone dial thing. And that's when he gets drunk to teach her a lesson, finds him there. She goes, your English is pretty fucking good, huh?
Yeah.
Please hang up and call again.
Oh my God. And there's some foreshadowing there when he's in the bar. On the news, it says a soldier went AWOL.
Mm-hmm.
And it also sets up the next scene in between that. After he's bailed out of jail. His dad keeps trying to bust him for watching porn.
Oh, yeah.
It's so like random. Like, why is this scene happening?
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't matter. It's hilarious because it's just setting up the fact that he gets an email from her. But just great filmmaking. Just how do you tell a story about a guy getting an email? About his dad trying to catch him watching porn?
And it's
Genius.
It's
Genius. Great filmmaking.
These things too are so small and subtle, but it's so fucking funny because it's very real too.
Yeah.
Like we used to watch porn and then we're always looking over our shoulders to make sure our dad doesn't know.
Oh my
but his dad's
gosh.
not even angry because he has no proof.
Yeah. He's
Right?
just bored.
He's just bored. And he goes like, he comes in, he goes like a sweet, sweet father, right?
Yeah.
He's like, "You're not watching any porn or anything, are you?" He's like, "What do you mean, Dad? I'm not doing any of that stuff." And he goes back to watching porn and he busts right back in. It's like, what are you doing? He goes, "Oh, I'm just checking, whatever."
Oh gosh. So, despite all the horrible things Kyonu endures, he is determined to cure the girl's pain. He decides to surprise her on her birthday and takes her on a nighttime trip to an amusement park, which ends up quite differently from how he planned. The pair encounter the AWOL soldier who holds them hostage and rants about his misery after being jilted. Kyonu convinces him to release her, and she in turn convinces the soldier to free Kyonu and go on with his life and pursue another love. So this part is obviously like, let's turn back. This story started off as a blog, right?
Yeah.
From this dude who was coping with his breakup with this girl, and he was telling stories about this crazy girl that he was dating. And eventually that blog turned into this novel, a fictionalized novel, which turned into this script, which turned into this movie.
Yeah.
And obviously this part, I don't know if it's true. I don't think it is.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said before, the part with his dad trying to bust him for watching porn, it doesn't say much except it's just funny, but it sets it up for the fact that he's for the next scene.
Yeah.
I feel like this whole thing is like an exaggerated fictional way to show their first fight between a third person, probably, who also had a breakup.
Yeah.
And then ended up with them, because what it really showed with this soldier in him was that throughout this whole time in this movie, this is a halfway point of the movie, Kyonu can't admit that he's dating this girl.
Yeah.
Even though all his friends think that this girl is the hottest girl out there, way above his league, and all that, he just can't admit that he's dating this girl. He won't even tell his teacher or anybody around him, "No, I'm not dating her." And when this fucking soldier has a gun pointed to his head, he can't even say, "No, I'm not dating her."
Yeah, so they all went into, I guess, after hours. They wanted to break into this carnival or amusement park, like Look the World or something like that, right? And so this runaway military dude, he goes into the quote unquote not so much abandoned but the closed amusement park, and that's where they decide that they wanted to go. Find them, takes them hostage, and you get to see like how actually kind of like compatible and cute they are, right? Even before you get to see the moment where he kind of you can see he doesn't want to admit that that's his girlfriend. And even in the midst of her being in hostage with a guy with an automatic rifle to her head, she's still a fucking gangster, dude.
Yeah.
This is how scary this woman is, right? Because she was like, because he asked like if they're together, right? And he goes, we're not really together, or he kind of alludes to that, right? And he says something in a very crude way. He goes, and then he's like, so can I fuck her then? Right? And she looks at him. She goes, "What am I, some fucking fruit? Like, you could just pick me like that? You could just pick me like that?" But then there's such a funny part too, where there's this moment where you think Kyono's going to do something manly because he's such a beta bitch in this film, right? Where he's going to say, it kind of alludes to the fact that he might say to like, "Hey, you know what? If you can't let both of us go, can you at least let me go?" You think that he's gonna man up and sacrifice himself? He fucking sacrifices her.
Yeah.
And then he hears that, and now this military guy is even more pissed because that cowardly like behavior reminds him of the guy that his girl left him for. Right? Now, that moment right there, I was like, yo, this guy is such a bitch throughout this whole film.
But I think it plays along too with the way, I think it might be a little meta too, because before we were seeing the action film and we were seeing the Sonagi film, and now like I feel like he's throwing a little hostage situation filmmaking action thing in the middle of this kind of core. It's literally the climax of the first half of the movie, right? And because it's a surprise, supposed to be a surprise birthday for the girl,
Mhm.
and Kyonu's friend who works at the amusement park sees Kyonu, and so he lights off the fireworks when this guy's trying to kill him. Like it turns out to be this melodramatic moment, right? Earlier, he was telling the girl like, "Oh, your story's not sad enough. It doesn't have the melodrama. Koreans love melodrama."
Mhm.
And in this moment, in a meta way, the screenwriter put melodrama
Yeah.
in this action scene. I think that was a pretty great way of telling this story of their first fight, like
Yeah.
big fight about their relationship. But what ultimately happens though is that it strengthens their relationship, right? So the girl and Kyonu's relationship turns a turn for the better. Her cruel treatment of Kyonu is her way of showing affection, and the two grow closer. Let's see. And she presents another script to Kyonu. And this time it's more of like a wuxia, like samurai movie. And all the way it kind of goes off, it's like super action filled and this and that. But then the point of all three of these scripts that she keeps bringing up is that this girl is from the future.
Yeah.
She has this obsession with the future, right? And what's to come, or meeting people from the future. And it's kind of showing off in these scripts that she keeps writing. And she makes him go to a production company to hand over the script. Right?
Oh my god. This is so bad. It makes this guy like heave.
A&R guy starts reading it.
He starts heaving
Yeah.
because of how terrible it is.
He turns a page, he goes, "Oh."
Yeah.
Turns it. "Oh." Dude, this is the visual guy. I'm telling you, you guys, though, like everything is a joke.
Yeah.
Everything has its moment for a joke.
And the good thing about this film too, sometimes when you see films who do jokes every 2 seconds, you kind of get exhausted, right?
Mhm.
One of a great example is, and a lot of people disagree with me on this, is like, because I loved like Taika Waititi, right?
Mhm.
But when he did the Thor film, I thought he did too many jokes where it was like, I liked it was enjoyable. I still liked the film a lot, but sometimes it was like Thor always had to say some kind of quick witty joke.
The last word.
Yeah, it's like,
Is it really?
yeah, like,
That's
can we just move on? Like,
Yeah.
and it happened like 80 times throughout the film.
Yeah.
And that's when I feel like sometimes they're not placing these jokes very well. It's like, it's funny, but it's not funny when you have to do it all the time. This
Right.
film does it in so many different ways. Like, you kind of just don't know when to expect the joke.
Well, the problem being that the jokes like you're describing is off of improv.
Yeah.
Thor 4 feels very improv.
Improv, yeah.
Right? But this film is like, you have to script it. You have to write this joke down.
Yeah.
Like, and they thought about all these things, that every little thing can be funny.
Yeah.
And which is great. That's why I say it's a Korean
They made a fucking abortion joke for crying out loud, dude. Even for its time, it wasn't that controversial, but even then, it's like, goddamn,
Yeah.
dude. You know?
Okay. So, they play the game on the train where if someone steps over with their left or right foot, they slap each other in the face. And that's a whole setup for itself. You guys have to see it for yourself. It's a great scene. They sign up for kendo. They play racquetball, right, or squash. And she makes him wear her heels and chase her around, like, and if he doesn't do it, what happens? He gets fucking pissed.
It's this little thing that you see like cute Korean couples do is "날 잡아봐라." They're just like, come and catch me. And I know, and you know what the funny thing is? Like, I've never had a girl ask me to do this until I met Mariel. Like, I'm like replaying my sassy girl in my head as she asked me to do this at Disneyland. She goes, "자기 날 잡아봐라." And I'm like, what the thick did you just say? Thick? Did you just think? She's like, catch me if you can. And you know, like, I'm lovey-dovey, but I'm not that lovey-dovey, especially in a public place like that. So I'm looking at her, and I remember at Disneyland, she goes, 날 잡아? She goes, 안 잡아? She's like, you're not going to catch me? She goes, fine, whatever. And she's like pissed. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, this is the film all over again. I'm like, yo, what is going on?
She's taking her cues.
Yeah. So
I think does Mariel ever think that you have the ability to read her mind?
Yes, all the time.
Yes. And so same with this girl.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Korean girls. Is it? Or is it every girl? I don't know. But for me, every Korean girl that I've dated was, they thought that I was supposed to read their mind and know what was.
You don't know?
Yeah.
너 몰라? 너 눈치 없어?
Oh my gosh, she's so real, right?
Yeah.
All right. So after a day of hanging out, he walks her home in the pouring rain, and she demands that he meet her father, who is a habitual drinker. Her parents do not take Kyonu and do not take to Kyonu, and on leaving, he overhears an impassioned argument between the girl and her mother over her relationship with him. He does not hear her from her. Damn, I must be twisted and I'm drunk. I can't read this shit. He does not hear her. He does not hear from her for quite some time, and his life without her begins. So they break up because her parents don't approve of him. Damn, I couldn't read that shit.
And you can see like where you get why her lightweightness from her drinking comes from her father. It's just smashing, and he passes out and smashes his head into the table too. It's like that's where she got it from.
Right. And you can see it's not unnormal too to have a drink with the father of the girl you meet either, right?
다시 만나지 마. Boom. Knocks out.
Right. So, like I was saying earlier, Mariel kind of expects you to read her mind, but have you ever had a moment of just like no communication? Or in past relationships where just like someone just ghosted you?
I mean, I've definitely, yes. My very, very first girlfriend, she ghosted me for 2 weeks and then broke up with me after.
Damn.
That shit was one of the most like emotionally like fucked moments of my life. As a fucking 19-year-old, could you imagine what that's like, right?
Yeah.
As a 19-year-old. Like I was gutted.
That happened to me when I was 21 and that shit hurt too, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why would you do that, you fucking cunt bag? Like, so in that moment too, what happened was like the reason why it was so hard for me when I was younger at that age was because the night before that she just ghosted me for 2 fucking weeks. I said something to her that was kind of the nail in the coffin. It was true though. It's actually how I felt, right? But it was something that I didn't want to accept. And I said it out of impulse because we were having an argument, right? And so I remember I was at my buddy Daryl's house, and I went to go crash at his place because I wanted to check out, torrents, because I was in Riverside. So I went home with him for the weekend to see where he lived and stuff like that. So we're chilling, and at night, and I go like, are we even compatible? Like, is this even working? Like, you and I are so different. Like, I don't understand why we're so different. And do you really think that this is going to work? And then she got dead silent.
Right.
And then I was like, hey, this is something that you should think. I woke up the next morning and I was like, man, I was just being emotional. Like, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
She ghosted me for 2 weeks.
Right.
And so I said something to her that I think was a big fear. And it just kind of reaffirmed what she already felt. And what I said wasn't not true. It was true. We were not compatible. We didn't make sense.
Right.
But she ghosted me for 2 weeks, and then she finally hits me up, and I'm in Sacramento, back from break from Riverside, because she went to Davis.
Yeah.
And then she goes, "Hey, can we meet up?" And I already know in my fucking gut, this bitch is gonna dump me, right? And I'm like, "Hey, man, what's my exit plan? I got to make sure that she doesn't dump me." And I kid you not, this is like one of the sorriest moments of my life. This is why I remind myself of Kyoni like a little bitch. She breaks up with me, right? And I told this to Edric on the podcast, but she literally says it's not going to work. She starts crying, right? Let me tell you what I did. Not like a manly man. I didn't be like, you know what? I understand. Bro, I collapsed on my knees and I grabbed her ankles. And I was like, don't leave me.
No.
And I'm dead. As a 19-year-old grown-ass 6-foot dude, I was like, I grabbed her ankles. Like trying to shackle her, please. Like, I'll do better. Don't leave me. And I just remember looking at me. She's crying. And I'm looking at myself. When I look back at that, I'm like, you should have just stepped in front of a car. You fucking loser, dude. What is wrong with you? I literally grabbed her ankles like so she couldn't leave.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
So one day, however, the girl calls him and tells him to bring her a rose during class. Fucking calls him after ghosting him. what do you know? To commemorate their 100th day anniversary after ghosting. She's crazy.
She's fucking crazy, dude.
He does this, leading to a touching and romantic scene where he arrives in disguise as a food delivery person in a packed auditorium and watches her play the melody of Canon in D. He presents her the rose and the two hug while classmates applaud in approval at his romantic gesture. Aww. As part of the celebration, they hit the bars and clubs together dressed in high school uniforms. She gets drunk as Kyonu carries her on his back. A stranger slips a condom. Kyonu drops her off inside and is confronted at her house by her parents again. The father interrogates him and forces him to empty his pockets, where he embarrassingly presents the condom, and her father demands that the two break up.
Mm-hmm.
So it was going to work, and then with the family, the family got in the way and had to break it. Were you ever in that kind of situation where family was just like...
I don't think Mariel's mom liked me very much.
Really?
Like when she first met me, she was very distant and cold.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, only until recently. And mind you, she and I have been together for about like 6 years. I think it was like last year where I remember so when I would see her, she would actually never give me a hug.
Oh.
Right? And so I'm like, and I understand too, right? From a traditional Korean perspective, on the exterior, I'm a piece of shit. But when you know me, I'm very much not like the persona that you probably see in entertainment, right? Because this is entertainment.
Yeah.
So, and everybody knows this about me. Like specifically, like even in the church, they know like I'm this loud kid. But they always said like her aunts even said this about me. She goes like, you have a very kind soul. Like that's what her aunts always said. So her aunts love me from the get-go, right?
Right.
Because they saw my videos, they saw how much I curse or whatever. But they met me and they go, oh, you have a very kind soul.
Right.
But I don't think her mom really kind of bought into that. But then out of nowhere, like last year, she sees me, she goes, David, hug. And she gave me a hug. I was like, what the fuck is
what
this?
Happened? What happened?
I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I think from perspective wise, just like Kyonu, that's why I'm saying this film is really weird. Her mom expected her to be with somebody who was academically on paper very successful,
right?
A doctor, a lawyer, had a very stable 9-to-5 job, right?
Mm.
So what I did years ago to kind of put this at ease, I was like, oh, you guys should come to the grand opening of my matcha shop.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't think she knew exactly what I did. And there was like 800 people there. And she was like, what is this? I was like, well, they're here to see me. you know? And so I think her dad was like, oh shit. You know what I mean? Like, he's not just some clown. It's like, no, I work. Like, no, you did.
Yeah, I've had girls ask me, wait, what do you do exactly? It's just so I can tell my parents. Yeah.
It's like, even now too, when people ask what I do, they go, what do you do for a living? I was like, I'm a small business owner.
Yeah.
That's what I say. It's just the easiest. What am I supposed to do? It's like, I get half naked on my Instagram.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
All right. The girl does not contact him again. And Kyonu naturally thinks they have broken up. Until one day, seemingly out of the blue, she calls Kyonu to meet her for dinner as she is on a blind date. The girl introduces Kyonu to the date, who thinks Kyonu is a great friend of hers based on how highly she speaks of him. She is unusually soft and gentle as there is clear awkwardness between the two. She excuses herself to the washroom, appears to not be handling the breakup so well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you know what they did a really good job at?
Mm-hmm.
And when I watched the film again later on, is her wardrobe.
Right.
She's dressed in pure white. Yeah. Did you notice that? Like she's in all white. She looks, it's like her being like this pure version of herself.
Right. Like the whole tubu idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she's just all dressed in white, almost angelic. Right. You know what I mean? And that's how she's behaving. It's like, oh, how odd. You know?
Man, even symbolically in colors in Korean films. Damn, you noticed that?
Yeah.
Shit. I don't know about you, but I've been trapped by my ex to fucking meet some other dude that I wasn't trying to meet. I was trying to meet her. In fact,
really?
That was the reason why we got in this fight in front of Tiggs.
Oh.
I was living here and I had just moved here, right? I was like 2 months into LA and I went back to Seattle to hang out And I called her out. It's, hey, because we were seeing each other. She just fucking visited me in LA. So I went back to Seattle, let's hang out. And when I call her out to hang out, she fucking brings a dude with her. Tiggs. And so that's why we got in a fight. And that's why she said that shit. And that's why she punched me in the face. Crazy
Wait,
fucking
why did
shit.
was she saying that kid was your kid? Or what, did she just scream that she had an abortion?
She just screamed that she had an abortion, and I was asking her, was it mine? And when I did, she punched me in the fucking face.
What was, I'm sorry, afterwards, what did you guys talk about that? Like, yo, you
Right.
fucking socked me.
So how sassy girl is this? So I call her the next morning, and she was like, well, I was so drunk last night. I don't know what
Oh my
happened."
God, 주아버지.
And I told her exactly what, just like in Baskin Robbins, I told her what she did, right? And she goes, yeah, I was just lying. Nah, I was lying.
Oh my God.
I'm like, this girl's crazy.
You're a fucking psychopath.
And this is where we broke up, too.
That's fucking, what is wrong with her?
Dude.
And now she's a pastor.
This story will keep going as this synopsis keeps going, okay?
She is now the head pastor at a Presbyterian church.
I'll finish it. All right. And the girl returns to the table to see Kyunwoo gone. He left while she was in the bathroom, but not before offering the blind date 10 rules to follow to ensure her happiness. At a cafe, instead of Coke, juice, order coffee. Prevent her from over drinking after 3 drinks, given to her every circumstances. Just all these little nuanced things that we saw her with her weird behavior. He's telling this guy, hey, play along. This is what she likes.
Yeah.
Right? While the blind date recites these rules to her, she realizes how well Kyunwoo understands her and realizes her love for him. She abruptly leaves her date and searches for Kyunwoo at the subway station. They cross paths several times but never run into each other. So she goes into the subway security office to see the security monitors. She sees him standing close to the edge of the platform, just like she was in the beginning. While an employee makes an announcement in the microphone, she yells his name, he hears, and they reunite at the office. Right? Once reunited, the two realize they are at a turning point in their relationship. But for some unknown reason, the girl decides it is time for them to part. As a gesture to their happy times, the two write letters to each other and bury them in a time capsule under a particular tree on a mountain in the countryside. They agree to meet again at the tree after 2 years to read their letters together. After burying the time capsule, they go to their separate ways for good. So, you told your sad breakup stories. You got another one for us?
I mean, that was probably, after that was the only sad breakup I've ever had. So the reason why is because the very first girlfriend that I had, she was a life lesson for me. Right. It was a reflection in how much of a loser I am. So taking that lesson, I said I would never be in that position ever again. Right. Not so much be vulnerable to somebody, right? But to make sure that I have my wits about me first, that I understand the value of myself first before I go ahead and bring somebody back into my life. Or if things aren't going to work out, just cut it out. Like, define those lines really fast, right? Which led to later on me having a lot of funny and weird dating stories because I would literally date anybody and everybody.
Right.
Anybody that would date me, I said yes.
Yeah.
Right? Specifically, number one, and I mentioned this before, was like, as a comic, I needed life stories.
Yeah.
But I kept on doing this thing where I wanted to fall magically in love with somebody. But I'm like, hold on. You got to know what you're in for. So why don't you just start dating people? And so that's why, like, I mean, I could probably fill up 30,000 episodes with every single date I've been on. Because I literally would just try to mac on every single girl, and whatever girl would say yes, I would go on a date with them and see what would happen.
Right.
So after her, I never had my heart broken by another girl besides her.
Yeah, I had my moment like that when I was like 21 in Seattle. We were there's this really popular street near UW called the Ave, and it's where all the restaurants and coffee shops are. And I met with my ex there, and I begged her there in public to take me back to. I was bawling my eyes out and crying in front of all these people, and it was so awkward that she just got up and left. And I was just sitting there crying.
Oh my
And
god.
I felt so sad for myself that I walked out the restaurant. I walked down the street, the Ave, and there are thousands of people, and I'm just crying until I
And
get to my
I
car.
at least cried at my house, man.
No,
What
and
the-
when I got to my house, I put my blanket and pinned up against the window so my room was completely dark to allow myself to cry longer.
Oh my, who was this like your first love?
Yeah, my first love.
Yeah, so
Like,
she was my
yeah.
very first love
Yeah.
too. Definitely, I thought I took it bad, dude. God damn, man.
And that was part of one of those things where I was like reevaluating who I was as a person
Yeah.
and like the kind of shitty person I was and why I was an asshole and why I wasn't good enough and blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
then Iraq.
And then you left to Iraq.
Anyway, let's see. Overtime now. 2 years have passed. During the 2 years, Konu works hard to improve himself. He practices kendo and racquetball or squash and learns to swim. To pass the time, he also began writing about his dating experiences with the girl on the internet as a means to cope. So he starts reading the real life or like playing out the real life parts of the story. His stories gain so much notoriety that he is approached by movie producers to turn his letters into a movie. He is ecstatic because the girl's lifelong dream was to have one of her screenplays made into a film. He so desperately wants to share this news with her, but chooses to wait until they agree to meet. 2 years. Oh, by the way, so when he presents the new script to that same A&R dude, this time he's like floating in midair.
Yeah.
Oh man, these little visual cues, man. Please watch this movie, you guys. 2 years have passed, and on the agreed date, he travels to the tree on the mountaintop, but the girl does not show up. He comes day after day without opening the time capsule in hopes that she would appear, but she never does. Eventually, he opens the time capsule and reads her letter and learns the root of her angst and behavior. Kwonu reminds her of her previous boyfriend who, rather than breaking up with her, actually died before she met Kwonu. On the day they met on the train platform, she was supposed to go on a blind date set up by the mother of her deceased boyfriend, with whom she kept a close bond. Because of her chance meeting with Kwonu, part of her feels that it was her ex that brought them two together, and she develops guilt of falling in love with him. She needs time apart to heal and move on from her ex alone. So she decides to break up, to do the mature thing, to have to be alone from him, to have to grow up,
Yeah.
right? And get through her past. And she starts explaining about why she's so obsessed with the future, right? And this time capsule, because she wants to move on from the past, but because she's stuck from the past.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Where these are real human feelings that we feel, right? Because when we get hit with trauma, we're in a time machine.
Mm-hmm.
Every time we will replay this thing that happened 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's our time machine.
Yeah.
And so now, so that's why she's obsessed with the future. She wants to move
He wants to
on.
move on really bad. And just in like perfect fashion, how they make everything into a fucking joke. Like this tree that's so symbolic of their relationship, right? They see this old man, right? And
It's kind of like Up, right?
Yeah.
You think that he's gotten old.
you assume that that's Kyonu, but it's not. It's just
Some random old man.
Yo, when I saw, I'm like, yo, fuck this Reiner, dude. They just had to add one more fucking joke. When they did that part, I was like, yo, this movie's genius, dude.
Yeah.
They fucking set me up so bad for that. I was like, oh man, they didn't come back after 2 years.
God.
Like it's been like 80 years.
No, it was just another year.
Just
like,
one more
yeah.
year.
Oh my gosh. So, let's see. Sometime later, the girl is on a train and the door closes right before a man tries to board. She has her back turned to him. She doesn't realize it's Kyonu, who realizes it is her and chases the train down the platform to no avail. They fail to cross paths again. So between this time, it's implying that I mean, they live in the same city, that they've crossed paths multiple times,
Yeah.
but that they were in that moment, like perhaps before they were never meant to be, which is why it was so chaotic.
Yeah.
And right now, when they choose not to be together, that whatever fate decides is that they shouldn't be together.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great storytelling device.
Yeah.
So, as it turns out, the girl is on her way to lunch with her deceased boyfriend's mother, who has planned to introduce the girl to her nephew for a blind date. The nephew arrives, and it turns out to be Kyonu. As it turns out, Kyonu is the boy that she had been trying to introduce to the girl for years. The mother offers reasons as to why they'd be a great match for one another, but Kyonu and the girl are too busy gazing into each other's eyes. And the mother asks, "Do you know each other?" And the camera pans out, and they're holding hands under the table.
Yeah.
The end. A story of toxic relationships are beautiful.
Yeah. And remember in the beginning of the film, he ditched that girl.
Yeah.
He fucking left her hanging dry because he didn't want to be set up by his fucking aunt.
Right.
And it turned out to be that girl. So they were already kind of destined to meet each other.
It was her all along.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
her all along, which is kind of nuts. And I was like, man, what a good way to tie up this rom-com. It was really good. Like that was like, there's only a few rom-coms that I really like. That's one. And then 500 Days of Summer
Right.
is another one that I really liked because it was very representative of like how when we're in a relationship, we don't like to see all the fallacies and the disasters when you're heartbroken. You can only remember the best parts because you're so desperately wanting to be with this person.
Right.
But when you take a step back and you realize all the reasons why you guys broke up,
Mhm.
there's a reason why this happened. That's why I like 500. It was so relatable,
Mm.
right? And then that 500 Days of Summer 2 was really quirky.
I've never seen it. Never seen
You
I
should
gotta
watch
see
it. It's really
Yeah.
quirky too. There's like these moments where they break up into song and dance. It's odd.
Zoe Deschanel and JJL, I believe. Is that it? That
Yeah,
movie?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I
You'll
gotta
like it.
check that one
Like
out.
that's like one of the very few rom-coms that I
Yeah.
really, really like.
See, I'm not big into rom-coms, but this movie does it for me. Like Love Actually, I get it. Like I appreciate its factor. But I feel like it feels the same. Because rom-coms are constantly playing with this thing with fate. A lot of rom-coms kind of feel like a Crash without the racism. It's about love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this one plays it out really well, where it's like it's coincidental, but then if it is that unbelievable, just make it fucking funny.
Yeah.
You know, and it did it really well.
Yeah.
This was I felt heavy about it because like about my shitty past relationships, but it also helps me laugh at the pain that I went through.
Yeah.
Like getting punched in the face.
They did.
Shit.
It's weird too because if I read this script, I would think that it wouldn't do well because
Right.
of how all over the place it is. When you just read it on paper,
Right.
you know. But the way it kind of plays out, it's nothing how you would have ever expected, right?
Right.
It's like how I feel about Scott Pilgrim Saves the Universe, right?
Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Edgar Wright
So
film, yeah.
if I would have seen that on paper, I'm like, no way, this is the dumbest thing ever. But Scott Pilgrim is one of my favorite films of all
I
time.
fucking love that shit. I always watch it once a year.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite. And in likes of Scott Pilgrim, I actually wrote a Korean drama series based on Edgar Wright's writing,
Right.
and then a little bit of how My Sassy Girl is.
Right.
So it's those two are some of my two top favorite films. Like they kind of mix in this weird like reality non-reality thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Where you play to the creativity of your imagination.
Yes.
You make it meta. Your imagination is part of the edit.
Mhm.
Your imagination is part of the music, right? Like when you say 500 Days of Summer, like, yeah, your imagination comes to life in this
Yeah.
crazy exaggerated way. And then you come back down to earth.
Yeah.
Like I love those things too, because we live that life being raised by television, right?
Mhm.
In our daydreams, we're just
Also,
fucking
too,
flying.
those things that are very unreal, it's not represented in how we do things, but it's how we feel.
You feel.
It's a pure representation. It's a physical representation of our emotions.
Yeah.
Right? So when you see people breaking the song and dance and it's ridiculous, that's how it feels. Let me tell you this. I just remembered something and it's a little embarrassing, but I'm going to say it anyways. The very first girlfriend that I got together, I chased this girl for a while and I kind of like had my feelings at bay because all my friends liked her too. So I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Eventually I said, fuck it. I'm leaving the school anyways. I'm just going to go ahead and put myself out there and let's see if we're gonna date. So finally she says yes, right? And
Yeah.
I was shocked that she said, yeah, like let's I want to be with you. Tell you something, dog. She lived like maybe like a 15-minute walk away from my house. Bro, I was doing cartwheels and jumps and flips running all the way back home. Going, yeah! I'm talking about the most embarrassing thing ever, dude. Like I'm screaming. Like so when I saw that whole thing, you know, when he's like breaking into song and dance, I'm like, I actually did that.
Yeah.
As a fucking 17-year-old kid,
Here we go. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. So when I see that, I'm like, that's how people feel on the inside.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when somebody says like, it's very like kind of Willy Wonka-ish. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
oh, I have butterflies in my stomach. You see butterflies pop out of your mouth.
Right. Amelie. Right.
Yeah, Amelie.
Almost. Yeah. Like that feeling. You can call this the Korean Amelie, the Korean Edgar Wright. Like it's so much of that what you love about film packed into this. I think you'll find it here. That's why we love it. It's such a great film. But also, by the way, with this other, you know, every girl like that I've dated has resented me. But I've also like, you know, had a cordial like kind of friendship after too. Because even this girl too that I talked about, you know, my sassy girl, where we broke up. I saw her a couple months ago.
Oh, really?
She was visiting LA.
How's she
And
doing?
we had dinner. And she's doing fine. She's great. We're grown up, you know? And it's just like you look back like, yeah, we were crazy kids.
Yeah.
You know,
She's a little more crazy though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know her.
Yeah. Socking somebody in the face. And, you know.
But yeah,
I was not very nice to her when I met her too.
Yeah.
By the way. Like
we'll talk about that
another time.
But yeah, I mean, in saying that, so much of craziness happens in this movie, right? And then they still do the adult things of having to break up because they need to be apart because they have to.
Yeah.
Even me and this girl, like, I had to fucking end this shit with her. And when it was getting bad, when it was just getting too toxic. Because this is a movie about toxic relationships.
Yeah.
And they do the right thing. They split when they know.
They split, they grow up.
They grow up. And then, you know what? Fate brought them together. And me and this girl, we split. I had to fucking ghost her. I had to leave her out. Like, it was rough. It was hard. And then I just saw her again for the first time in like 6 years. And you know what? I'm just grown up. And there's peace behind it. And like, none of those weird feelings in the past or whatever doesn't come by. We're in the future now.
Yeah.
We are here in the present. And, you know, who she is today
You're a really good person. Like once I leave somebody, you're deleted. Like, I never want to see you again.
Hey, though, but I also have my moment where, look, I look like this right now. I look homeless and crazy right now because I actually got dumped last September.
Yeah.
Another girl. And so I haven't been taking care of my face. But we agreed to call each other after a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been able to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look, they gave each other 2 years. This girl gave me a month to get better. It's like,
that's not how it works. Like a month is very short.
Yeah. And so
it's already fucking February.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like trying to get my shit together still, I guess. And that's where I was kind of anxious about watching this movie, where it was like, I'm going to, have to grow up and get my shit together to have to really want to talk to this person if I wanted this type of person again in my life, right? Just like Hyunwoo did. Like, there's so, like, we do everything because this girl is perfect for me, but we don't do anything to be perfect for the girl.
Yeah.
Right? Put us in that place. So,
Well, you know what's interesting? Like when Mariel and I first started going out, you know, she did this whole thing where I think she wanted to keep her options open, right? And I think for her, she'd like to play a lot of games, you know, in such the Korean girl fashion.
yes.
You
games.
know, and so she, you know, she would always say these things when we first started going out. She goes, yeah, well, there's this other guy that I'm really interested in too, because we were kind of just dating openly, right? And at the time, I was kind of fooling around with one of your friends from so she kept on mentioning this other dude, right?
Yeah.
That she met through some fucking dating app, right? And I already told her explicitly at this point, like I was like, this girl was just fun, right? And I was like, okay, listen, like I like you, like we're straightforward, like I really, really like you, you know. but she kept on mentioning this other dude. So I literally told her, I was like, you know what? I'm done. I was like, good luck. And she was like, what do you mean? I'm like, yo, like, listen, I think you have something really confused. Like, I don't know you. You don't know me. I don't owe you anything. You don't owe me anything. And what I said to her verbatim was, you have something very twisted right now. You think that I'm trying to figure out if I'm good for you. I'm trying to figure out if you're good for me.
Ooh.
Right? I was like, so you go ahead and figure out what you're going to do. I told you how I feel. And when you're done, you let me know. And I hung up the phone. After I hung up the phone, I was like, she's gonna leave me. I was like, why did you say this? I was like, oh God, you're so stupid. I was so mad at myself. I'm like, who the fuck do you think you are? The last time you did this, your girl ghosted you and you fucking cried at her ankles, you dumbass. You know, but it turned out it worked.
It worked this time, right? And the same way, because this past girl gave me so much trauma with how crazy she was. When I started dating someone else, I started behaving this way because of my trauma from this other girl. And then when she called me out, like, why are you being like this? And I would say, oh, this last girl, and and she was like, stop. I'm not that girl.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not that person. Not everybody. No one's that person. She's her. She's like, I'm me, and come get to know me.
I'm Eunice Kim.
Yeah. Her name is Eunice.
Oh, is it?
Oh, shit! How can we get any better than that?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, okay.
Well, that wraps up this episode. Oh, that's too fucking funny, dude.
Oh my God.
Oh, man. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Genius Brain Podcast. I hope you liked this review of number one, Korean culture, and also this film. You guys have been enjoying this. Clearly, I'm going to let you guys know on Instagram to watch this film beforehand, before you watch this review, because it's very telling and it'll help you guys understand what this film's about. Let me know if you guys have watched this, agree or disagree. You can find Ed at EdParkVP on Instagram. And you remember, every Genius Brain every Thursday and Sundays, and we'll see you all next time.
Peace.
Peace.